Hey guys, we got Hasan Piker on Theo Vaughn. I thought he brought up some pretty good points. I was kind of surprised to see him on there. I know Theo's interviewed some very right wing people, including our current president, Donald Trump. I always thought he was more of a right leaning comedian, but he does have a very guest list in some regards. But let's get into this right now. This is Hassan. I got some timestamps here, but there's just some stuff I kind of want to get into a little bit and just kind of see what Hassan's talking about. Let's get into this. Here he's talking about Israel versus Palestine, or like his support of Palestine over Israel. And I think it was an interesting conversation.
Over and over and over again. Like you'll see it in the comment section of this video. There will be a ton of people who are going to come in and be like, this guy is a bad dude. Like he said this, he said that. Because like the major reason obviously for that is because I'm anti-Israel. Like I'm pro-Palestine. I've been pro-Palestine for quite a while, and that really brings out the crazies.
Does
like
it
that,
really?
Oh yeah.
Yeah, it does. If you spent any time on Twitter, you know, if you've praised Palestine in any way, there'll be some nutjob Zionists in your mentions screaming that you're a murdering fascist. It's really obnoxious. You know, I don't get too involved in that kind of debate on Twitter, but I've seen some very contentious Twitter arguments spawning from that. People feel very strongly about it, to say the least.
Oh yeah. You haven't encountered this? I mean, you had Gabor Mate on.
Yeah, we had Gabor Mate. We had a rabbi. We had Bassem Youssef on. We definitely have tried to like learn some about it. I think in the end, for me, it just became like my feelings just tell me that it's just messed up what's happening to those people. It's like, and that a lot of it was covered up by the media, or they didn't want you to share certain information, or you weren't allowed to.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
I mean, that's how it's always been, though. It's not just for Israel. It's just in general. Like when it comes to American foreign policy, the American media is fairly one note. Our politicians are one note on it too. They're bipartisan on that.
Right.
Yeah, that's the thing. Yeah, but one thing, Hassan bringing up like how supporting Israel is a bipartisan issue. I found this website, you know, on Open Secrets. I think if you guys probably know about it. But as far as like lobbying goes, you see the numbers. You know, it was a peak in 18, but it was also very high in 24. 4,759,268 total for pro-Israel. 6 clients, 23 lobbyists, 4 revolvers, and it just goes to show you, you know, like money to Congress as well. Money to Congress, Democrats, Republicans, independents, and whatnot. You see those numbers there. We're getting into the $70 million territory. Contributions to all candidates, incumbents, and other candidates. So you see like the amount of money that's going out there. You know, House Democrats, number of members 206, average contribution 112,000, total contributions over 23 million. Republicans, it's the same thing. Democrats are getting more money. It's absolutely insane. You see the recipients here. You know, I mean, look, Democrat, Independent, Republican. Ted Cruz got $1 million. Bob Casey, Democrat, got $1 million. Steve Scalise got almost $700,000. But yeah, across the board, DR. It's all over the place. All over the place. The top 20 recipients, the presidential candidates. You know, Kamala Harris, she got over $2 million. Nikki Haley got $500,000. This is just from 2023 to 2024. So yeah, I mean, Hassan brings up a solid point here. I mean, a lot of money is going from these pro-Israel groups, not necessarily Israel themselves, but a lot of other, you know, lobbying groups and whatnot that are very pro-Israel. And you can see how it like dominates so much of our politics. And it's very aggravating as an American to see how much money is going to these causes that have very little popular support.
That's like,
So when you say that, do you mean that they're all in on the same? It's all kind of the same ruse. Do you mean?
yeah. They all agree. It's always uniparty when it comes to American foreign policy. When it comes to giving money to Israel. When it comes to a lot of that stuff, like going to war with Iraq, right? You got the media also presenting that lie that they have, you know, chemical weapons, that they have weapons of mass destruction.
I remember that. You know, I remember. Oh, them blaming. They said like Saddam Hussein had a nuke or some shit. I remember that shit. I remember growing up during the the war on terror and the war in Iraq and whatnot.
And uncritically reporting on that to justify going to war with Iraq, going and invading a foreign nation that we had no business invading.
Right.
So that happens all the time.
Yeah, he's absolutely right about that. Absolutely right about that. It's weird to like actually agree with something about Hasan Piker. I know I've talked about him before, but you know, I mean, that there's something. I think a lot of people on both sides of the aisle start to understand that. You see a lot of real skepticism and like anger directed at the neocons. We've all seen that Holden blood feast meme. People are pissed off about these old, like 90-year-old fucks in Congress keep signing bills to give money to foreign wars, support foreign wars, more military interventionism. It's absolutely terrible. This next part, Hassan talks about living in the imperial core. Theo talks about basically how he feels to be an American and just like kind of how lucky he feels to live in there. I know it's a feeling a lot of Americans have. I certainly felt lucky to live in America. Not every single day, but Hassan kind of talks about like the imperial core and how Americans feel this way and they might feel guilt about basically their country doing all this like military adventurism and all this basically attacking other countries, regime change, all the corruption and malfeasance in America on part of our elites. But let's get into this a little bit.
To differentiate, well, what does it mean to be an American to me? Because if I stay here and I sleep under this banner of America where I can make money and and there's a welfare system, and albeit people have ideas of whether they're good or bad and those, but that I stay here, I continue to stay here, I keep myself here, this is where I choose to be, in the safety of this place.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, how complicit am I, or am I just an American? And I got blessed into this place and this is where I am. And if somebody else weren't born into this place and they were in a place that were, more hostile and scary to live in and sleep in and try to survive in, wouldn't they be praying that they would be here or that they would have some of the same things?
Yeah.
That's the thing you got to understand, judging like right-wing arguments against immigration versus left-wing arguments against immigration, all of it boils down to empathy. A lot of these people are coming from bad places, war-torn places, and it's usually due to American military action in those places. And, there's lots of questions. I think, both sides bring up some good arguments, not to sound like some centrist, but there is a concern here with the kind of people we let into the country, how many of them we let into the country, what kind of resources we give them. But there's also the issue of like seeing them as human, seeing them as kind of like victims of American imperialism, being able to help these people out as best we can, because some people feel we owe them that. But let's listen to what Hassan has to say about it.
Everyone.
Does that make any sense?
No, it does. Yeah, no. What you're describing, like I said, is what leftists call like living in the imperial core. Because if you're in the heart of empire, you at the very least don't suffer the repercussions of being the victims, right?
Right.
Like you're not in Guatemala, so you're not getting destabilized by the American government in many instances, like, or at least throughout your history. So you haven't been kept down. And therefore your situation in comparison to them is going to be a lot better.
And then what do I want my life to be like day to day? Do I want it to be this constant or do I want to not think about those things and think that those are the government's, some of that's the government's responsibility. I do my best to elect and vote in a way that I think is meaningful and vote for the best person. And then
that's the thing. You got to call into question, not to question democracy, but sometimes a lot of Americans are wondering like, what the hell am I even voting for lately? People voted for Trump. They didn't vote for this big trade war unfolding. I mean, they probably figured taxes were going to happen or like tariffs were going to happen, but they didn't figure they'd be getting laid off. A lot of government employees that voted for Trump are getting laid off. And it's the same thing with like Biden, a lot of his policies and whatnot. I mean, people weren't voting for an extended war in Ukraine, Israel essentially committing a genocide in Gaza. They didn't vote for that, They don't vote for Israel, to bring that point back up. But yeah, that's the question we got to ask ourselves here. But let's move on. The next part, this one is Theo talks about wanting to start a family, or at least wanting families to be able to raise kids or people to even start families in the first place. And Hassan kind of explains to him why that doesn't really happen in America anymore.
Not less. Give everybody a fucking job.
Oh, well, I think that I think women should get paid so that they can be at home with their children. And that way, or a man, if one of them wants to work.
Yeah. No.
And then the other one can be at home to be a parent. You know, I wish that was something that we did with our money.
They would never do that, though. That's the problem. They hate.
There was a case for it at one point.
Yeah, I know, but I'm saying like Republicans, especially Democrats, won't do either because like both parties kind of like the austerity stuff. Like
What does austerity mean?
Austerity is belt tightening, like fiscal belt tightening, as in lowering expenditures and cutting social safety nets, basically.
Well, I think people are getting to their wits end where it's like nobody believes that either one of these parties is doing anything, right? I think because you've had the same problems, you've had the same things happen time over time, and maybe some of it at a certain point you realize, well, that's just the cost of business. It's just like it's just become so bloated. It's become more about them, like you're saying, more about corporations and less about everyday people.
Yeah, I mean,
that's
it's never
just
been,
what it is.
Yeah, it's never been about people, in my opinion. It's like New Deal with a lot of like socialist, communist pressure at the time.
FDR's New Deal.
Yeah, FDR's New Deal.
What was
definitely,
it? Bring it up.
FDR's New Deal definitely brought forth a lot of prosperity to America, like got us out of the muck of the Great Depression.
The New Deal was a series of domestic programs.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. I just want to, was a series of domestic programs, public works projects, and financial reforms and regulations enacted by President FDR in U.S. between 33 and 38, in the 1900s, with the aim of addressing the Great Depression, which began in 1929. Wow, dude. So he had to be right on the back of the Great Depression.
Yeah.
Because people always.
Yeah, that's the thing. You feel that sometime, but it's interesting points that, these guys are bringing up. It's like Americans are going through a tough time now, and politicians, as Theo was saying, they really don't seem to care. They're just kind of like happy with people kind of struggling, and it kind of goes over more as like what it's like to be an American. Like, yeah, you're lucky to live here in a lot of ways, but a lot of Americans are struggling. What do we do exactly? Because you just feel like, you don't want to seem ungrateful, but at the same time, you kind of it's okay in the richest, most powerful country on earth. I feel like it's okay to ask for a little bit more. But let's move on to the next segment. Okay, this one he talks about like workers adding value and basically like their role under like the current system.
Gonna be is a bunch of wood on the factory floor without you, right? Workers are the ones who add the value, who generate the value.
Damn it.
Yeah, Bernie had a good thing about that. He said that, well, if we're going to shorten people's work weeks, right? He was talking about having a shorter work week.
Yeah.
And then that since companies' profits are going up, then the employees, the amount that they should make should go up. It's like, it shouldn't just be the company at the top that has the increase.
Yeah. So, I mean, AI is a perfect example of this, right? Like, it's very disruptive to the environment. I don't like that. But more importantly, also on top of that, it's used as a way to displace the existing labor force, right? Because now you can just get the machine to do the job of the person that was doing the job beforehand. I'm an advocate that, like, no, you should still keep that person employed, pay him the same amount of money, make him work less. Why? I mean, why are you firing this person now? Because AI is a tool, right?
Right.
But the way that companies work under capitalism is whenever there's a technological advancement like this, right? This has allowed us to be on 24/7. Now you can have so much more output as a worker, right? You can be online at all times. Productivity rises in that process.
Your boss can get a hold of you at all times.
Yeah, the boss can get a hold of you at all times. You're more tapped in. You're more aware of what's going on in the world, and you can be a better worker because of that. But in that process, bosses look at that and go, okay, now I can make one guy do the work of 5. I'm going to fire 4 fucking people, and I'm going to make the one guy do the work of the other 4 people. And
yeah, as I heard some logic years ago when they talk about like workplace automation, like robots taking certain jobs, or as technology is kind of expanding. Some people you talk to, they were like, well, it'll create new jobs and new industry based around like maintaining these robots and these systems. But that hasn't really happened. It's just like the system or these robots, this new technology makes things so efficient. You get rid of everybody else. You can cut overhead pretty severely, as Hassan was saying. But yeah, I mean, with the advent of like technology, as far as like the workplace goes, it's pretty crazy. It's great commentary there. Hey, it's crazy, but no, it's things are getting bad. I'm glad he brought up the AI thing,
and that is how. That is under capitalism. That's how it works, where they use technological advancements that increase productivity to displace the existing labor force, to just basically fire them. And instead of lowering the hours that the existing workforce worked and maybe even increasing their pay in the process, because they're still doing the same work. Yeah. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Okay. So he brought up some interesting points there. I'll let you had to say about that, but let's move on to the next segment. Okay, here we're talking about undocumented migrants, taxes, social services. Hassan brought up some interesting points. Not 100% sure if I agree, but let's get into it.
I'm a active amnesty advocate. Like, I think first of all, this is a civil offense. Amnesty, like crossing the border is a civil offense. Right. And you have a 5-year period where if you haven't done any crimes, like the statute of limitation is over. Now there's different legal, there are different legal interpretations of this, and people go back and forth on it. But like the way I think about it is like if a dude is in here and they're working, right, and they're not trying to do they're not here to do evil shit. They're here to just simply work. Give him documentation. The difference between an undocumented migrant and a documented one is just a piece of paper, is paperwork. Process these people and allow them to contribute to our coffers in more meaningful ways, because they already pay taxes, but they could be paying more taxes as well.
Do they pay taxes if they're undocumented?
Yeah, because I think they still pay into Social Security because they have to get a Social Security number, some sort of Social Security number. They pay for sales taxes, things of that nature. You know what I mean? Like there's a bunch of different contributions that they make, and they can't take advantage of any of the government programs anyway. That's why a lot of Republicans lie. They'll be like, "Oh, undocumented migrants are like stealing our our social safety nets," and I'm over here like, what the fuck? What social safety nets do we have? What are they? We don't have health care. Like what?
That's the thing. Like it's a big right-wing narrative. One I used to kind of agree with, talking about like, oh, they're coming here, they're taking jobs, they're doing this and that and whatnot. But honestly, it's like I think there's a lot of fear mongering and bullshit. I've already bring that up, but you got to ask yourself. There are instances where certain small business owners will employ illegals and will exploit them. There's exploitation on the side of the people that employ these illegal immigrants, and they're dealing with a lot of issues in that regard. And so you have to understand, like, being an illegal immigrant, it's not all roses and champagne. There's a lot of stress that goes into that kind of thing. And a lot of people are just like, why can't you just get documented? It's a big process, I know, but not to sound too liberal about that kind of stuff, but I think a lot of the fear mongering around illegal immigration is very misplaced, and trying to put a human face on this kind of thing. But you also have to consider, like, where these people, are they taking housing from other people? Are they taking jobs? Are they taking, you hear right wingers talk about how, hey, they're going to these hospitals, they're taking healthcare away from other people. I don't know. I got to dig a little more deeply into that kind of stuff, because I feel like I've been propagandized for so long, but I think a lot of it's bullshit. And Hassan brings up some pretty good points here. But let's move on to our next segment. Here, Hassan has some tips about managing anger and staying positive, and I thought some of this was kind of worth getting into.
Or more.
I don't know. I'm fairly tapped into all of the shortcomings of the American government, and yet I enjoy myself. I mean, I still jerk off before I go to sleep. I still watch anime. I play basketball. I focus on myself. I think, like, there are certain things that you have control over, and that is your own body, right? Your immediate friends and your family, and you should actively work on those things to basically not lose sight of your own humanity, because it's easy to get lost in the sauce,
Yeah.
in the everyday cruelty that you recognize is happening all around, and it makes you go crazy. And in order to combat that, I always urge people to engage in self-improvement, set goals for yourself, and try to achieve them. That's at least how I've always managed this stuff. And also being around other people who aren't immediately agreeing to your worldview. Like I love parks for that reason. I love third
Parks and Recreation?
spaces. No, not like Parks and Recreation as in like the TV show. I mean like literal public parks.
Oh yeah, dude.
Yeah.
There's a band, or not a band, there's some homeless guys stole, I guess, a band's high school equipment during COVID over by there's a park behind my apartment. And you could hear them sometimes practicing in the
I love how just Theo goes off on this total tangent. It has nothing to do with anything, but you know what Hassan was talking about. Yeah, it kind of makes sense, you know, because the guy does deal with a lot of negativity. You watch clips of his streams and stuff, and a lot of people in his chat are shit talking him. But yeah, you should be around people, you know, setting goals for yourself, like whether you're losing weight, trying to quit smoking, trying to quit eating fast food or whatnot, you know, and also like being around people that kind of challenge your perceptions, but in a not a confrontational way, just some people you can maybe learn something new from or explore other viewpoints. I think that's good. But let's move on to the next and last segment I'm going to talk about here, where he talks about the importance of humor. I'm sure Theo has a few things to say about that.
But
Yeah.
first of all, thankfully we can still joke around about stuff and we can have a sense of humor.
Yeah.
Imagine if we didn't as individuals have a sense of humor. That would be
I agree with you.
that would
I
be
love,
the saddest.
I agree with you. I love comedy. You know, I Bill Burr is my goat.
Yeah, dude.
I think he is, you know, I mean, you're a comedian as well. I'm obviously very good friends with Stavi as well. I know you always
Yeah,
link
he's
up with
cool.
him. But the
He mailed
thing,
me some cookies his mother made him.
oh, dude, me too. Yeah,
Did he?
when he was out here,
Oh, okay.
I ate all of it. Oh, you didn't like them?
I know I liked him. I'm just sad that they're bipartisan snacks he's sending out. But, no, I'm
Oh,
joking.
yeah,
I'm
damn.
joking. No,
Listen,
no.
he's been-
It was
he's
so
been-
sweet of him. It was
He's-
just only friend of mine that did that. Very
Yeah.
sweet of him.
He also
He was like, my mother wants to see this. Just fucking good.
did he also shill his fucking calendars, his naked calendars? Give you
I
those
think he
too?
did, dude. Yeah.
Those shits have been
Oh,
sitting on my
Jesus.
desk every time. I'll have like you know, prominent figures like activists and shit at my house, and I'm interviewing them. Like there was Motaza Zaiza. I'm interviewing him. He literally survived the genocide. He's a photojournalist from Gaza. And fucking Stavi's naked body is just sitting there on the fucking desk. I'm like, oh my God. Like, it's fucked up. It's fucked up. Being friends with Stavi is fucked up. That's why you can't trust the Greeks.
Oh, now that
Okay.
look,
Let
finally
me tell you,
something
as a
that
Turkish man,
we're both
let me tell you.
both sided agreement on right there,
Yeah,
dude.
bipartisanship on that front for
You
sure.
cannot.
Oh, that's funny. That's funny. All right, so yeah, humor is important. I mean, we talk about serious things, we get into serious topics, but you know, you should also take time to be able to crack some jokes. And you know, some people they get irony poisoned, or some people you can just see their kind of brains breaking in real time, and they just can't take anything seriously anymore. But you want to like balance it out, where it's just like, yeah, this is an issue in society. We should take it seriously, but there's some things we can joke about. We can do some trolling sometimes. It's fun to piss people off sometimes, especially if they're annoying douchebags. You know, some of this kind of stuff, you just have to laugh at it sometimes. Just like how some people are so cartoonishly evil. Like, Elon Musk is doing some real damage, but we can still laugh about what a douche he is. And, you know, Trump, we still crack jokes about that guy and whatnot, even though it's almost like redundant at this point. I mean, I don't know what else can be said about Trump that hasn't been said 1,000 times before, but, you know, it's all good. It's... Tell your jokes, have some fun. You know, that's basically what it's all about. But I'm going to leave it there. I thought it was a very good interview with Theo. I thought they brought up some very good points. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down below. Are you a fan of Theo Von? Do you like Hassan? I know I got some Hassan fans in my subscribers, among my subscribers. But yeah, I thought, you know, it's kind of interesting to see two guys from kind of two different mindsets, two different sides of the road, kind of get together, be able to have a good conversation. We definitely need more of this, you know, going forward. I appreciate Theo hosting Hassan. I appreciate Hassan going on Theo. But yeah. Oh, it is Sunday. Go to church if you haven't. If not, that's cool. But you all take it easy now, and I will talk to you guys later.
Ryan Little.